Thank you very much, Facundo. I hope you're hearing me well. On behalf of IUCN, representing here IUCN Regional Office for Europe, I warmly welcome you all. I see that we are hitting shortly an 150 mark, which is great. We had a few hundreds of registrations, which is exceptional, and I really thank you for registering and joining this event today. It's our agendas are full of events, so we highly appreciate your interest and attendance, and truly hope that you will find this webinar workshop useful. Nature-based solutions, just a few words about it, are really critically important, and we see that they are gaining momentum in Europe and globally, and are particularly relevant for linking local, national, regional, and global agendas, and for us, first and foremost, the EU level and global. And this year it's a year of 3 Rio Conventions, where we will try to feature nature-based solutions as strongly as possible and bring this voice from Europe in shaping global and further then cascading down back to Europe, our regional agenda. Nature-based solutions have been critical over the past years, and since the launch of the nature-based solution standard in 2020, IUCN has pioneered this approach, which in 2020 has been 10 plus years of discussion among key partner stakeholders on how we would like to see this standard look like. And then 2022 was a milestone with launching it, and ever since, nature-based solutions have proliferated at all possible levels, at UNEA, at EU, so various definitions and approaches, and has been really bridging a science policy and mobilizing resources and action on the ground. We certainly particularly thank the European Commission for their strong interest and understanding of the importance of nature-based solutions, and this workshop today is a result of that, because it stems from Network Nature, which is the foremost a European partnership on nature-based solutions. And certainly that we at the IUCN Regional Office, we very strongly take nature-based solutions and integrate in all dimensions of our work, be it a biodiversity or nature restoration, or nature-based solutions themselves, agri-food systems, water resilience, urban, and on. Yeah? We at IUCN World Conservation Congress in Abu Dhabi in October 25, we launched the European Nature-Based Solutions Hub, which is part of a network of regional hubs that IUCN initiated recently, which are to support ongoing initiatives and basically add value to ongoing initiatives. And here in Europe, we are blessed with so many nature-based solutions initiatives. So one of the reasons for that was also to strengthen governance of the nature-based solutions approach, because there is a standard, there is a definition. So we have to be rigorous in how we understand, how we translate, how we mainstream, and how we apply nature-based solutions. So that was one of the reasons for that. So here today we will hear a number of interesting case studies, and that's what Network Nature does. Facundo already mentioned a nature-based solution for drought. There are other major initiatives, and Urban by Nature, Network Nature itself. So this workshop today is to shed light a little bit on success stories, so help us exchange our views and experience on how we move forward with nature-based solutions in Europe and beyond. So how we understand the standard, how we transfer standard into policy and regulation and practice. And in closing, I would really like to thank our partners, certainly ICLEI first and foremost. It's our dear friends for ICLEI, who've been also promoting very strongly nature-based solutions and being at the fore of nature-based solutions globally and in particular in Europe. So we very much welcome this partnership. And of course, a nature-based solution for NbS for drought projects will also help this. I would also like to thank the European Commission for supporting this and enabling this, and also as far as the European Nature-Based Solutions Hub, a big thanks go to the German government for their support. So I wish you all a very, very productive an open discussion and productive day, and hopefully that you will take a lot of inspiration from the workshop. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Boris, for setting the scene and highlighting the importance of collaboration around NbS. Now I would like to invite Matthew Buck, Regional Director for Europe of Strategy and Policy at ICLEI, to share his opening remarks. Matthew, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Facundo. And thank you, dear Boris and dear colleagues. I'm so happy that to be with you today and that there are so many of you also in this webinar. It is definitely a sign as to the importance of the topic. Um, I'd want to start by saying that nature-based solutions for me have a very special place in my heart, where actually the first project that I worked on back when I was at the technical level at ICLE was on nature-based solutions, the Naturevation project, actually funded by the European Commission. So it's going full circle for me here, and I'm very happy to be with you all. ICLE Europe is certainly very proud to host a strong team working on nature-based solutions and biodiversity. We work on numerous projects, including nature, of course, and we really try to connect knowledge, policy, practice across Europe. My colleagues Daniela and Shreya will speak more to this later during this webinar. Thank you in advance for those inputs. And what I want to highlight to you today is the importance of partnerships. I think Boris started a bit on this theme, and they are in many ways the keystone to addressing the great challenges of our times, whether we talk about climate change or biodiversity loss. And this is very much what unites ICLE and IUCN, where together, through these partnerships, we're able to scale impact across a portfolio of projects and initiatives. Now, cities are very much at the heart of these efforts. They deliver long-term impact. They integrate nature-based solutions into planning, infrastructure, and public policy. Without them, it's difficult to achieve any form of long-term success and impact. However, in achieving the scale that we need to address the broader issues that I referred to before, we need strong multi-level governance and we need cross-sectoral collaboration. Now, today's discussion is particularly timely as we look forward to COP17 of the CBD in October in Yerevan. ICLE and its partners will convene the 9th Cities and Regions Summit for Nature, bringing together local and regional governments from across the world who are frontrunners and really to feature the actions that they undertake together. Now, coming back to today, I'd like to extend my warmest congratulations to IUCN for the global standard for NbS, which is instrumental in strengthening credibility and guiding implementation globally. On this note, and so that there's still plenty of time for the actual technical interventions, I'd like to wish you a fruitful exchange and much success in moving forward with these questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matthew, for your remarks. And I would like to now give the floor to my colleague Shreya, who will introduce the next part of the training. So, Shreya, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, Facundo, and thanks a lot, Matthew and Boris, for such a insightful entry into the NbS topic. We are now into the learning session and delving a little bit deeper into what it means to design effective and high integrity NbS, and also how can NbS IUCN standards help. Our first speaker is Natalia Burgos, the Senior Officer and European Hub Coordinator at IUCN, who will be presenting an overview on the topic, sharing challenges and opportunities, and also making a link to the IUCN Global Standards on NbS. Please note that there will be a question and answer round as well. So feel free to put your questions in the chat and we will take it after this, after Facundo and Natalia have presented. So Natalia, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Shreya, and welcome everyone. I'm Natalia. I had the pleasure to join IUCN team recently as the coordinator of the IUCN European NbS Hub. Just to start, I would like to say that it makes me very happy that in the first event that we make after the launch of the hub, we have so many interesting people here. I see your names, some known colleagues, some colleagues from around the world. And I think in a time where there are severe challenges competing for our attention, it is really powerful to see so many people conveying here to talk about nature. So it really pleased me, and I think it's powerful, especially in times of difficult interconnected crisis. And to start with, I wanted to say I didn't know how really to start this conversation because, yeah, I mean, now when we are trying to make the case for NbS, for nature-based solutions, it really becomes a gloomy and difficult perspective. We have to talk about crisis. We have to talk about navigating this crisis and in times of uncertainty and also in times of political change, right? So I didn't want to come at first with very difficult numbers that we all know about the crisis and multiple crises that we are facing. So with our team, we were reflecting a bit on how to communicate this, and we decided to start with this image, right? So we do have this multiple crises that sometimes in academia we call the triple planetary crisis. So biodiversity loss, climate change, pollution. And I decided not to name the last wave because we all know that there are several other waves that we are all trying to navigate, especially political changes, and therefore, I mean, we really need to try and understand how to solve or how to navigate these turbulent times. And then in this, we really wanted to emphasize as a first image that the power of all of us being here, navigating or trying to navigate. I have to admit I'm not a surfer, but really the surfers seem like a lot of what we are facing on our daily jobs, right? We want to advocate for nature, for people, but we face all these big waves. And for us, the first message and why we made this webinar happen was about just trying to convey and make a call for us all being on the same boat. And then just trying to understand if this boat is called nature-based solutions, and if we are recognizing the potential of nature-based solutions, we need to really reflect carefully of how this boat should look like, what are their qualities, how we can make an integrity NbS, meaning a boat that help us really navigate through these challenges. So this was, the first image, and then I'm going to go now next, please, to a bit to the concept of nature-based solutions. I think if all of you are joining, many of you know this definition a bit by heart, but it's always, from my perspective, interesting to come back to it, to reconnect to what we are advocating for. And this definition is really the result of many decades of discussions on how we humans can better relate with nature. So I'm going to read it, and I invite you to read it by yourself as well, so we can reconnect to it. So nature-based solutions are actions to protect, sustainably manage, restore natural or modified ecosystems that should address societal challenges while enhancing human well-being and biodiversity, as many call it, for nature, for people, right? They should simultaneously deliver biodiversity positive outcomes, climate adaptation, carbon sequestration, water purification, and others benefits. I say should because we are talking about here in this webinar which types of NbS have these potentials, and meaning which type of interventions we can call nature-based solutions. Not everything is a nature-based solution, so this is also part of the conversation. Next, please. And also because we have such a diverse public here, it would be very interesting I wanted just to mention that NbS is an umbrella concept, right? That encompasses many types of approaches that were in different regions of the world we have been learning on how to apply them, right? So we are talking about restoration, ecosystem restoration, restoration of forest landscapes, etc. We are talking about specific approaches on climate adaptation, mitigation, disaster risk reduction, and how they can be based in ecosystems. We're talking about blue and green infrastructure, about management approaches, on how land use planning can support different sorts of positive outcomes for nature and people, integrated coastal management, water management, and then of course we are talking about protection, protected areas management, and other conservation measures. I think the fact that nature-based solution concept is an umbrella is extremely relevant because it helps us convey a big community of people interested in nature and people and human well-being into the same community of practice, which I think, or I found in my professional practice to be very powerful. Next. And yeah, and in the face of this interconnected crisis, I think we all read it every day. So there is this growing acknowledgement of the transformative potential of nature-based solutions. NbS, here I brought a couple of quotes of IPBES and IPCC. NbS are vital in achieving transformative environmental change as they work at the interplay between the climate, system, oceans, and land to provide crucial mitigation and adaptation services. This is why we all hear that nature-based solutions have the potential to deliver into the Rio Conventions, into our development goals, climate goals, the certification and biodiversity goals. So again, the message here would be which type of interventions we should be aiming at for them to really achieve their potential. Next. But before going a bit into this question on which type of interventions and how we can get to shape them, there is also a growing acknowledgement not only about the power of NbS for achieving our goals in Rio Conventions, but also a growing acknowledgement of the economic case and potential of nature-based solutions. We do say NbS provide economic ecosystem services that are worth 125 trillion annually, and ignoring nature exposes also not only people but portfolios to unseen risk. Also, we say that investing in NbS increases resilience against climate risk, and also reducing future capital losses. And this figure for me is particularly strong. So over 50% of the global GDP is moderately or highly dependent on nature, right? And then, of course, different institutions, European Investment Bank, Asian Development Banks, and others are already recognizing the economic importance of applying and mainstreaming nature-based solutions and incorporating environmental safeguards and nature-positive outcomes as requirements for investments. Next, please. And yeah, and just to reinforce a bit this idea, ignoring NbS leaves civil society, but also businesses overexposed. We have high impact sectors that hold significant exposure to ecological degradation, mining, etc., raising non-performing assets risk. Also, biodiversity decline threatens GDP. And I think this is very important, projects lacking an NbS approach also can face regulatory pushback, increased litigation, and community resistance. So not creating ownership and the potential of sustainability of the initiative. Next. So these growing recognitions attracts new actors. We all are saying, okay, we need new actors, we need new sources of funding nature-based solutions. But my call here would be, with new actors at the table, with this growing recognition on the importance of nature-based solutions, is also that this shifts the powers dynamic in NbS governance. This shifts the way nature-based solutions are being designed. And this is why now more than ever, with new actors coming to the table, that are all welcome. We really need to think about what it means to have high integrity nature-based solutions. Next. So it is about seizing the opportunity of this growing recognition of nature-based solution uptake and the importance in the economic importance, but also human or the importance for achieving our development and climate and biodiversity goals, but also managing risk. So more actors at the table generate learning and potential opportunity, but also it is very important more than ever that we have clear guidance as the implementation accelerates, right? So crisis moments, they are difficult, but they also bring the possibility of new alliances, of new collaborations, and new approaches. So here I really wanted to bring some questions on what is that we, at least from my perspective, as NbS community of practice, as global NbS community of practice should be asking about in the face of this global recognition. So from my perspective, it's about understanding or promoting accountability and power and understanding power dynamics. How do we ensure transparent, accountable governance? How can we address power imbalances? How to prevent investments from reinforcing inequality. Also, it's about promoting fair and equitable benefits. How can benefits of NbS be shared fairly and inclusively? How do we safeguard human rights and community priorities? And this ties to how we include a diversity of knowledge around the globe on how to relate with nature, how to integrate indigenous and local knowledge along scientific knowledge, how to ensure the knowledge sharing is mutual and not extractive, and how to act on different knowledge types while maintaining NbS integrity. And this is why we call in this webinar for the importance of guiding principles for implementation and design of NbS. And next, please. And in this call and in defense of all these questions, I just wanted to bring a bit what we are trying to do and we are committed to do in IUCN. IUCN, founded in 1948, brings decades of experience on how to relate with nature. It is a big community of people that is passionate about nature, their conservation, and promoting a better relation with it. And in this context, we launched the nature-based solution concept resolution in 2016, and then we launched in 2020 the IUCN Global Standard for Nature-Based Solutions. Also, we recently updated the standard, and this was launched at the Congress and the IUCN Congress in 2025. And my colleague Facundo is going to be talking to you a bit more in detail about the standard. But I just wanted to highlight all this knowledge kind of curve that IUCN as a network, as the biggest environmental network in the world, has been gathering, and how this conveys in the concept of nature-based solutions and the promotion of it at the global level. Next. And just to reinforce, we do think that it's very important to have a global standard. It helps us ensure quality and integrity of nature-based solutions and defines clear principles and performance criteria. It offers a shared knowledge and benchmark by which to start exploring nature-based solutions. It guides better design, implementation, and evaluation of NbS projects, and it helps us incentivize positive change and accountability, right? So this is important, as I was just posing some questions on this new governance of NbS and bringing new actors into the table. Next. And in all this, IUCN has a global nature-based solutions management hub where we try to make strategy and bring in the expertise of the IUCN network. And therefore, there we are creating different sorts of, the standard and the governance of the standard and different sorts of tools to make this knowledge available at the global level. But really, in this pursuit, we realize it is very important to also make the context local and regionalize it, to say it in a way. And then we are launching a series of regional hubs. Next, please. This is our aim. We are on it. We really are working hard to be across the globe and have these regional hubs that are platforms to collaborate in different regions of the world and support NbS uptake, having at the core the NbS IUCN global standard. At the moment, we launched 2 hubs already, the Asian Nature-Based Solutions Hub that is based in China, and the European Nature-Based Solutions Hub that is the one that I'm coordinating and is based in Germany, in Bonn. Yeah, we are going to launch the African one, and then we are in talks to be able to launch the Latin American one. And the North American one is a bit in pause because of political realities that we all know. Yeah. Next. In this context, I just wanted to briefly introduce the IUCN Nature-Based Solutions European Hub to this community. This platform is a connecting and enabling platform that comes in to position and mobilize IUCN NbS expertise and to add up and to support the European community of practice, but also to bridge and to share with the global community of practice to really support this common goal that is the uptake of high integrity nature-based solutions. And what does it do? I mean, we started a co-creation process with key stakeholders to understand how to add up and not double up efforts with the European community. And we came up to this with these 4 types of actions. So we visualize and shape, that's it, we co-create what is needed, what is the gap, and how we can help guide NbS initiatives and promote NbS national uptake. Also, we are working on bridging, creating bridges to connect European knowledge and learn also from other regions and from other communities of practice, so we can all get better at it. We are working on different summer schools, etc., to bring people together and talk about this. Also, we work in sharing. We disseminate knowledge, we create new tools, and we disseminate best practices on how to promote and how to achieve in practice nature-based solutions that are of high integrity. And we mobilize, we enable action through different work streams that are on finance, on new partnerships, and of course, policy support. Next. I'm not going to go through all this slide. I know it has a lot of text, but it is at the moment how we see our work in the IUCN European NbS Hub. What I'm going to mention here is that we try to bridge this global community of practice with a European community of practice that is very rich. Now, Daniela, afterwards, after our presentation in IUCN, is going to tell us more about network nature and the great work that it has been happening in Europe. And from the IUCN perspective, we want to bring this to the core of the IUCN European NbS Hub and support this work. Yeah, so we are bridging this to community of practice to great initiatives. I'm really happy to coordinate this. We have summer schools, we have webinar series, we are producing policy briefs, we are having a sort of different and a diversity of resources available there for the uptake of nature-based solutions and the standard. We have 2 thematic areas. We are focusing on policy and justice considerations, but of course, then we also need to talk about finance and investment and how to bring new resources to NbS. And then for sure, in Europe, recognizing we are creating key alliances to work with partners that are excellent at what they are doing and add on to their efforts. So I will stop here to hear more about the IUCN global standard. I thank you for your attention. I thank you for keeping being here. And then I'm really looking forward to reading your questions and to answer them as best as possible. Thank you. So please, Shreya, go ahead.
Thanks a lot, Natalia. Yes, so now we move on to Facundo, and I see already some questions in the chat. We will try to answer that afterwards. But moving on, we hear from Facundo, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Shreya, and thank you also, Natalia, for the introduction and for placing nature-based solutions within the broader European context. So in the next part of the session, I will introduce the IUCN Global Standard for NbS and explain how it can be used in practice through the NbS self-assessment tool. I will also briefly present a case study from a recent IUCN publication, which presented 21 global cases where this framework has already been applied, to show how the global standard can support the design and evaluation of NbS projects. Of course, this is a very broad topic, and IUCN actually offers a 5-week training course dedicated only to the global standard. So please bear with me as I will only try to provide a brief overview. So yeah, in the next 15-20 minutes, I will focus on 3 main aspects. First, on an overview of the global standard, as I mentioned. its purpose and who it's designed for, the self-assessment tool, which helps practitioners to apply it in practice, and finally, what we can learn from projects that already use the framework. So let me begin with the purpose of the global standard for NbS. At its core, the global standard provides an evidence-based framework which supports the design, the implementation, the monitoring, and the scaling of nature-based solutions. So, in other words, it helps to ensure that when a project is described as a nature-based solution, it actually meets a certain level of quality and integrity. And this is particularly important today because NbS approaches are increasingly used across many different sectors, such as climate adaptation, water management, agriculture, urban planning, and ecosystem restoration. So, as the concept gains visibility in policy frameworks and investment strategy, as Natalia was saying now, there is also a growing need for shared standards and common methodologies. So the global standard therefore acts as this reference framework that helps practitioners to design projects that deliver benefits simultaneously for people, nature, and climates. Another important point is that the global standard was developed to be used by a very broad community of actors. I'm sorry. This includes governments and local authorities, project developers and planners, businesses and financial institutions, NGOs, researchers, as well as indigenous peoples and local communities. And this means that the standard is not only limited to conservation initiatives, but that it can support the implementation of NbS across many different sectors, many different landscapes, and it can also help actors from different disciplines to work together when designing and implementing NbS. Next slide, please. So the global standard is structured around 8 criteria. These criteria translate the NbS concept into a practical framework for project design and implementation. Each criterion, and we will now in the next slide go more into detail, but they focus on a different dimension that needs to be considered when developing a high integrity nature-based solutions. So, for example, projects must clearly identify the societal challenges they address. They must consider the broader system in which they operate, and they must ensure positive outcomes for biodiversity and ecosystems. And at the same time, and this is the distinction of NbS, NbS interventions also need to be economically viable, socially inclusive, and they have to be supported by transparent governance processes. And finally, they should incorporate adaptive management and be integrated into long-term institutional and policy framework that guarantee their sustainability. So altogether, these criteria provide a holistic perspective on what constitutes a credible and a well-designed nature-based solution. Next slide, please. So again, bear with me. I know there's a lot of information in the screen. This slide presents the 8 criteria in more detail, which are supported by 27 indicators. So let me briefly highlight the logic behind them. The first criteria focuses on societal challenges, as nature-based solutions must clearly identify and respond to the specific challenge that they are aiming to address. The second criterion emphasizes the importance of an integrated systems perspective, recognizing the interactions between the ecological, the social, and the economic systems. The third criterion focuses on biodiversity and ecosystem integrity, ensuring that NbS interventions result in a net gain for ecosystems. Criteria 4 and 5 address the economic and the governance dimensions of nature-based solutions, and this includes the financial feasibility as well as this inclusive and transparent decision-making processes. Criterion 6 focuses on the management of trade-offs, which are almost always present, recognizing that NbS often involves balancing these multiple objectives. Criterion 7 addresses adaptive management, ensuring that projects are guided by monitoring and by learning. And finally, Criterion 8 focuses on sustainability and mainstreaming, meaning that NbS approaches and initiatives should be integrated into broader policy and broader institutional frameworks. So this is the backbone of the IUCN global standard for nature-based solutions. So we are now going to go a bit into the practical side of the implementation. Next slide, please. So now to the question, how can practitioners actually apply this framework in practice? So to support this process, IUCN developed the guidelines and the NbS self-assessment tool for the standard. And the purpose of this tool is to help practitioners to evaluate how well their project aligns with these 8 criteria of the global standard. And here it is very important to mention that the tool is not intended as a certification system, but it is designed as a learning and a reflection tool. The idea is simply that it helps project teams to identify strengths in their design, potential gaps, and opportunities to improve their intervention. So as you can see here, the tool is available in 2 formats: an Excel version, which can be used offline during project planning and evaluation, and also an online version, which is available through the IUCN INBS platform. I will share these resources at the end of the presentation. So both versions follow the same methodology, and the idea is that they will guide the users through the indicators associated with these 8 criteria. Next slide, please. So here you can see an example of the Excel version of the self-assessment tool. So the structure, as you can see, is relatively straightforward. Each row corresponds to one of the 8 criteria of the global standard. So for each criterion, users will assess their project against this set of 27 indicators, which one by one will ask questions such as whether the societal challenge has been clearly defined. This is the baseline mapping for criterion 1. Whether ecosystem conditions have been assessed in criterion 3, or whether stakeholder participation has been ensured. And the idea is that based on the available evidence, the users themselves will assign a score for each of these 27 indicators. And the evidence they submit may come from project documentation, may come from environmental assessments, from monitoring data, or from stakeholder consultations carried out by the project at the beginning or obtained externally. And the tool, once all the scores for the different indicators have been provided, the tool will automatically calculate a score for each criterion, which we will see now in the next slide. Yeah, so here the results are then presented in a more clear and visual format. As you can see here, the tool summarizes how the project performs across the 8 criteria. And each criterion is associated with a percentage score, which reflects the level of alignment with the global standard. The results, as you can see there, are also represented using color-coded categories, which makes it easier to interpret the results quickly. So the green indicates, of course, strong alignment, the yellow indicates partial alignment, and red highlights areas where improvement may or will be needed. And as you can see below, the tool also produces a radar chart, which provides a visual comparison of performance across the 8 criteria. And this allows practitioners to identify quickly where a project is performing well and where further improvements can be made. Next slide, please. So to test the applicability of the global standard, IUCN recently published a report where the standard was applied to 21 case studies from around the world, as you can see there in the map. These projects represent a wide range of contexts, so they cover different ecosystems, different societal challenges, and different regions in the world. So, for example, the case studies include projects on forest, on freshwater systems, on coastal ecosystems, and also on agricultural landscapes. And the objective was to understand how the global standard performs when applied to real world and different NbS projects. Next slide, please. So the case study I will now briefly present comes from New Caledonia. It's a French overseas territory in the Pacific. The objective of this project was to restore degraded forest ecosystems in order to reduce natural hazard and to strengthen ecosystem services. The region faced several environmental risks, including landslides, rockfalls, flooding, and wildfires. And to address these risks, the project focused on ecosystem restoration and reforestation, but at the same time, the initiative sought to integrate sustainable local activities, including agroforestry systems based on crops, as you can see in the image, such as coffee, vanilla, cocoa, and sandalwood. And most importantly, the project also emphasized community participation, and we will see this reflected in the results. And also they highlighted the collaboration with the local institutions. Next slide, please. So in this slide, you can see that when assessed using the self-assessment tool, the project showed a strong performance in several criteria. The strongest criterion was criterion 1 on societal challenges. The project clearly identified the main environmental risks affecting local communities, including landslides, flooding, wildfire, and water scarcity, as I was saying. And in this case, from the beginning, a comprehensive environmental and social diagnosis was conducted to guide the design early on of the intervention. And in addition to this, extensive consultations were carried out with local communities and with scientists. So as you can see there, the previous slide, sorry. Yeah. The second strongest criterion was criterion 3 on biodiversity and ecosystem integrity. As the project included ecosystem assessments such as vegetation inventories, forest cover analysis, and ecosystem connectivity mapping. And all these activities supported both the ecosystem restoration and the slope stabilization while contributing to biodiversity conservation. Yeah, next slide, please. So at the same time, the assessment also identified several areas where the project could be strengthened, and this is, in my opinion, usually where the usefulness also of the tool comes. So, for example, criterion 2 highlighted the need to better consider the broader landscape scale, as intervention was solely implemented at a local level, but still stronger links with the regional policies could have helped to scale up the impact of the intervention. Criterion 6 relates to the management of the trade-offs, and here the potential interactions between ecosystem restoration and local land uses could be assessed more systematically, and this is usually a typical conflicted trade-offs in these kind of projects. Criterion 7 focused on adaptive management, as while the case did include monitoring activities, a more structured and a more long-term monitoring could support a more continuous learning. And finally, Criterion 8 highlighted the importance of stronger links with the institutional and with the policy frameworks, this to ensure the long-term sustainability of this NbS intervention. Next slide, please. Yeah, and so with that, I will conclude my presentation. If you would like to explore the global standard further, you can access additional resources through the INBS platform, which includes also tools, case studies, and the self-assessment tool itself. And the IUCN Academy also offers online training courses on the global standard for NbS, but also on other topics. Thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you so much, Facundo. I think it's great that that you presented it in such detail with also the application as well. So it was really interesting. I see a lot of questions in the chat, and I think we have a little bit time for maybe one question to each. Let's see how much we can kind of get into the questions. But first, I would like to ask Natalia to talk a little bit about how to balance NbS with green gentrification and greenwashing. I know that you presented it in some way about the risks and trade-offs and said a little bit about how to manage equitable benefits of nature-based solutions, but maybe it's interesting to hear a little bit more from you.
Thank you, Shreya, and thank you for the question. I mean, I wish there was one simple answer for this. I think this is why I came with more questions than answers in my presentation. But I would say that a well-designed nature-based solutions project or initiative based on the standard and basically a careful exercise of the different, for example, criteria that Facundo was sharing, I think really it would allow us to at least design and then kind of monitor the implementation of this NbS in a very like with awareness of what we are doing. I think avoiding it completely is difficult. I would like to say there is one way of doing it. I think this is why awareness raising is very important. This is why training officials that are or decision makers is very important. This is why, and from my perspective, it is also very important to, we say in Spanish, to put all the cards in the table, right? We need to understand what are the interests around NbS uptake, what it implies in terms of the value of the land and how it increases it and who is going to share it or not, or how are the benefits going to be shared, sorry. So I think it is about also acknowledging that there are interests and really try to address them as honestly as possible. And this then will entail a lot of public policy guidance, but also kind of a shared language in terms of what is a high integrity NbS, so we can all kind of pay attention to how we design and what we call nature-based solution. This is kind of a general answer that I would give at the moment, but for sure, this is why it's important to convey this community and ask how to ensure that we avoid this risk. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, so thanks a lot, Natalia. And there's one question specifically for Facundo in the question and answer box, which talks about how IUCN global standards ensure consensus, transparency, and users' participation in their drafting phase. So basically looking at it from a perspective of inclusion and transparency when it comes to actually drafting the IUCN global standards would be interesting to know from Facundo. Facundo, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Freya. So Yeah, it's a very good question. And I think I'm interpreting this question as how this can ensure consensus and participation during the drafting phase of future NbS projects, not of the IUCN standard itself. So mainly, I think this is reflected on the criteria on governance and stakeholder engagements. This is criterion 5. And this criterion requires that NbS are designed and implemented through this inclusive, transparent, and empowering governance processes. So in practice, this means that the project developers need to identify from the beginning, and this is the first indicator on the baseline, to identify all the relevant stakeholders, to engage them early in the design phase, and also to ensure that the different knowledge systems are considered, of course, including, depending the areas, on the scientific, the local, but also maybe the indigenous knowledge. And the idea is that the project will create mechanism for participation in this decision making. And also the standard, also in this criterion 5, requires transparency in terms of how decisions are made, including how trade-offs are assessed and managed. And this is covered under criterion 6. And finally, through the self-assessment tool, projects are asked to provide evidence of this stakeholder engagement and these governance processes and this transparency. And this could also help to ensure that these principles are not only stated by the project, but that actually happen and that they are applied in practice.
Thank you, Facundo. I see there's quite a few questions and we still have a little bit of time. I'm wondering if we can have one last question and then we will also, of course, get back to all of you with checking the reflections and questions from you and then try to answer it after the webinar. But I see one question that might be interesting to answer. So in high-risk contexts, another challenge is that green alone may not be enough. So we need to maybe open the discussion about hybrid solutions. And what does that mean in terms of like thinking about nature-based solutions? Does it consider hybrid infrastructure as well? So just a question that we can try and answer. Maybe Facundo or Natalia just come in.
Well, I mean, I could share a quick reflection because I don't see a short answer for this. I think it would be very difficult to advocate in today's world that it is only kind of nature-based solutions that can solve every kind of developing issue. But I think hybrid solutions have a great potential. I've seen it in my practice working with the Colombian government and how when, for example, the construction sector starts applying different solutions that are not only concrete and kind of that, and then this makes the case for less cost and also to how with kind of, let's say, simple or more nature-inspired solutions we can build kind of, you know, like disaster risk reduction or other benefits is a very interesting learning. I would just comment on this. I don't think there is just one solution that is the only one that should be applying around the globe. This would be very difficult to state. But yeah, I will stop there, and I see Facundo also wants to address this question.
Yeah, thank you. Just a very small reflection on top of what you said. It's important that the global standard recognizes that in some high-risk contexts, NbS may need to be combined with gray infrastructure, and it does support these hybrid approaches as long as the NbS are properly designed and contribute to ecosystem integrity and to societal benefits. I think that's the minimal, so to say, or the baseline, but it is supported by NbS.
Thank you so much. Okay, so now we move on to the next presentation from Daniela Rizzi from ICLE Europe. She is the senior expert and also the Network Nature Coordinator. So she will present the main activities that we are doing in ICLE and also around a little bit on Network Nature, connecting it to the capacity building program, Urban by Nature. And Daniela, feel free to come in.
Thanks so much, Shreya. Thank all the IUCN colleagues. We really love to work together with you. It's a pleasure, and you're gonna feel this through this webinar that we are really like a family, trying to push as much as we can nature-based solutions. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, so I want to share with you a little bit the work that we have been doing with Network Nature. So over the past decade, we have been actively working to bridge what we call the gap between science, policy, and practice on NbS. And across Europe, a growing number of research and innovation projects are addressing the climate and biodiversity crisis through NbS. And today, this landscape includes over 100 EU-funded projects. It involves more than 1,700 partners from across 85 countries. And you can see here on the slide with an investment of nearly 900 million euros. So this is all to push for research and innovation on NbS. And this landscape includes, of course, not only countries from Europe, but also countries from beyond. And it's very nice because I know that today here we have many participants that are not from Europe. They are from all the different continents around the globe. Yeah, and Network Nature tries to bring together this community. It connects the projects, and it covers a wide range of themes that nature-based solutions embrace as an umbrella term. So from climate resilience to water management, to ecosystem restoration, governance, nature positive economy, and others. Next, please. Despite this strong NbS research landscape, we see that a lot of times like the knowledge is scattered across the different sectors, across the disciplines and the policy areas. So many actors are working on NbS, but they are not always connected, and valuable tools and case studies and lessons learned can remain fragmented. So this highlights the need to bring together both the actors working on NbS and the knowledge resources they produce, but also to enable a very strong collaboration towards a shared objective. And we say always that we want to help build this community and platform to support the mainstreaming of NbS. So NbS is so important, it cannot remain niche. It is the push that we have at the moment at the policy level, and so many funding and financing streams to protect nature. Next, please. So here you see some logos of the projects that are part of the Network Nature project family, and we are onboarding them still to the platform. So there are new projects starting this year that are being onboarded, and they actually span multiple sectors, so including cities, but also focus on coastal areas, forests, agricultural landscapes, and peatlands, and etc. This platform supports these projects by providing opportunities for collaboration, knowledge exchange, disseminations. So we try to amplify the results that we're seeing in these projects and connect them with policy and practice. Projects contributing to the EU missions are also part of this network. So they come from the climate adaptation and the climate neutral and smart cities missions. Next, please. So diving in a little bit more, we curate a wide range of resources related to nature-based solutions. So through the platform, users can access case studies, practical guidance, databases, policy resources that help translate research results into practical implementation. And at the same time, we work with a mechanism that is called the NbS task forces, and they bring together experts from different projects and disciplines to exchange the knowledge and develop joint outputs. So this is what I always like to say. It's a bit an effort so that these projects, they don't work and exist as an island, but that they can cross-pollinate one with the other. Because of course, you can get a lot more attention from policymakers if you have a joint product from 40 projects, which is the case for many of the resources coming out of these task forces. And together, these resources in collaborative group, they help practitioners, policymakers to find a relevant knowledge and also connect with others working on NbS. So you can screen here the QR codes to dive in a bit more. Next, please. So to help structure this large body of knowledge, Network Nature organizes its work around what we call the policy themes. These include biodiversity and ecosystem restoration, the sustainable food systems, climate resilience, finance for a nature-positive economy, urban and regional transformation, so thinking of the urban linkages, rural linkages here, and of course, zero pollution. So these themes reflect areas where nature-based solutions can play a key role in supporting policy implementation. And we see that it's very important to identify here a package for all these policy themes so that we can make sure to integrate more and more NbS into policies. So that's what we call really mainstreaming. Next, please. Yeah, and the Network Nature platform is, of course, designed to be interactive and community-driven. So registered users contribute by submitting cases themselves. They can submit resources from the projects, but also beyond. They can upload events that they are working on or they are going to contribute to, upcoming workshops. So they help to expand the shared knowledge base on NbS. This creates a space where practitioners and researchers come together to share their experiences, to showcase the outputs of their research and of their studies, and also for them to learn from each other. The event calendar is very important for us, and we really invite all of you to register, and then you can also upload your event. Next. Last but not least, I want to highlight the work that we're doing supporting NbS hubs. So this community is actually growing, and it connects actors working on NbS at national and regional levels. These hubs link local initiatives with the broader NbS community, facilitating exchange of knowledge, experiences, and best practices. They act as an important bridge between the local implementation and, of course, research and innovation policies at the EU level, helping ensure lessons learned in different contexts can be shared across the different countries. But of course, some hubs exist also beyond Europe. So there is a Brazilian NbS hub, which was later turned into a Latin American NbS hub, and there is also a Chinese hub. There is a little bit the problem. No, there's no Germany hub. I saw the chat here, not yet. There are many discussions on the background, but we will love to launch a Germany hub. So if you're interested, please reach out. But I just want to say that many times Network Nature tries to provide the seed money for these hubs to launch, but we don't have the resources to take them along the way. So that means that it's very important for hubs to kind of dock into a ministry or, kind of like pair with a university, to try to get resources for the hubs to be able to roll out. Next, please. I want to talk a little bit about the Urban by Nature program and how this fits here in the landscape. So to complement the community building efforts, we see that capacity building is very important. And Urban by Nature has been providing support across 5 areas. So capacity building is the first of them, I would say, but then also planning and technical advisory, strategic communication around NbS, impact assessment, matchmaking between cities, innovators, investors, and knowledge partners. And we see that as the policy landscape around NbS continues to evolve, Urban by Nature is helping partners to navigate the new requirements and turn them into opportunities for innovation and implementation. Next, please. So a concrete example of this approach is the NbS for Drought project that Boris also mentioned when he opened the webinar this morning. So where capacity building and standardization efforts come together. So ICLE and IUCN are preparing the ground for this work with this very webinar we're launching today. And this is like an entry point for a broader capacity building process from NbS for Drought that is going to roll out this year. So through the Urban by Nature program, we see experts working on NbS standards, and implementation can connect, with practitioners and projects. So we hope to see a very strong webinar series tailored to the needs of the practitioners. The materials for these activities are then shared through a website and ensuring that the knowledge remains accessible for the wider community. So if people could not attend the webinars, they can still, of course, see the videos. Next, please. And as the field of NbS continues to grow, it becomes increasingly important to develop shared frameworks and terminology that supports collaboration across the sectors. So you heard from our dear colleagues from IUCN about the IUCN Global Standard for Nature-Based Solutions. I want to talk a little bit about a parallel initiative in Europe. So standards are being developed by recognized standardization organizations such as CEN, that's the European Committee for Standardization, and this is happening under the EU Regulation on European Standardization. In this context, the NbS terminology standard EN 10140 was developed within the CEN Technical Committee 465 with a working group on nature-based solutions. And the objective of the standard is to establish a common vocabulary classification for NbS in Europe, helping to improve and make it more consistent, the understanding across research, policy, and practice. And by developing this shared language, the standards support policy implementation, coordinations between the different actors, development of a stronger market for NbS, and the like. Next, please. So yeah, I want to also say that, of course, the standard has been developed and closely linked with international and European policy frameworks. So, for example, it does align with the UNEA resolution on nature-based solutions, which helped establish a global shared definition on NbS. So I wrote this as an answer in the chat. 193 countries agreed to this UNEA resolution. So it was voted. It was a very UN-backed process. So the European Commission is using the UNEA resolution definition, and the standard that is coming from Europe is also using the UNEA definition. And it has also been aligned with IUCN Global Standard for Nature-Based Solutions, which you heard about today. And at the European level, we are confident that it will also, of course, be used and be aligned more and more with the EU biodiversity strategy, the nature restoration regulation, the EU taxonomy for sustainable activities, and etc. Next, please. So one of the main motivations behind this standard was, of course, to address challenges in the NbS field in terms of, people complaining about a lack of terminology at the European level. So I think it's very important to say the idea of an European standard on nomenclature is not to create something new. It's, of course, to build on the work that was done by the UN with this multilaterally agreed definition from UNEA, but then take it, to the national level of the different countries in Europe. So this EN 10140 contributes with offering a common terminology and classification framework at the European level. And we are confident that this helps to, improve the field in terms of being the first step, in Europe for standards. And we expect that additional standards are to follow and as the field continues to mature. Next, please. So just to say here that Network Nature has been playing an important role in connecting the NbS research and innovation outputs from the community with the European standardization processes. So we're bringing closer, this community that has been working in all these projects and trying to transform, the outputs into really legislative agreed standards. And so that's why we have been granted this liaison role in the Working Group 1, allowing expertise from these EU-funded NbS projects to inform the development of this very first standard. At the same time, as I said, and I want to repeat again, we did have 2 or 3 loops where we tried to, as much as we can, to align with the IUCN Global Standard for NbS. Next. And here I just want to say some words about what is the standard itself. It actually proposes classification frameworks, and it lists terms related to nature-based solutions on one of the parts of the standard. Then it goes into specific types of solutions, and finally it lists NbS management practices. We will also want to say here that the next step of this standard is that the national standardization bodies translate this European standard into their respective languages. So that's really when the standard flies, right? So the first national version is to be published this month in Italy, and we have Andrea Mora here in the chat. He's working very hard for that, and this is being led by Uni. So this is the first one, but we already saw other countries are working to find people to translate the standard to local languages. So I know there are movements in the German front as well, but also in Spain and in Portugal. Before closing, I would like to highlight that while this standard was developed in the European context, we very much welcome efforts from other regions to develop their own approaches and standards for nature-based solutions. For example, I heard that Brazil is currently exploring the development of a standard in this area, which is a very encouraging step. And together we see that these efforts, whether they are at the global level, at the regional level, or at the national level, they can help strengthen, the shared understanding of NbS, while we respect, of course, the diversity of contexts and approaches across the different regions. So, yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniela. It's really interesting also that you bring the alignment between IUCN standards and the SEN standard as well. That was also a question in the chat about that. But one question that is quite easy to answer maybe for you is, how do you apply to add to the list of projects? Because you showed the 105 NbS projects. Maybe there's a way to also include other projects that have not actually made it to the website. So maybe that's something you can touch on.
Yes, very happy. So it's very easy. If any person register to the Network Nature platform, there is a very easy way to upload resources there. And we have the OPLA team. They are one of the partners in Network Nature, and they they help you to upload the resources to the website if you're having difficulty. It should be self-explanatory, so it should be very easy for anyone to bring a case, but also to publish a report they have worked on. For example, we had a meeting this morning with the ASEAN platform. There is a NbS platform, very strong now in the Asian countries called ASEAN NbS platform, and we're really happy for them to have their catalog uploaded to the Network Nature platform. So we welcome not only from the projects we are representing and bringing to the community, but resources from all over the world. We're very happy for you to upload your resource to the platform.
Thank you, Daniela. Okay, if that's the kind of end of this session as well, and now we are moving into the more practice oriented, kind of looking into the practices from different projects and also hearing from them. So I pass the floor to Natalia, who will be moderating this kind of short pitches and practice session as well.
Thank you, Shreya. Thank you. So I'm very happy to introduce this practical session. So we have examples of how all this unfolds in practice, and we brought three great panelists that are going to be sharing with us some insights on how they collaborate and provide key insights on what it means to develop and mainstream in different policy processes NbS that are of high integrity. So first, I would like to give the floor to Diana Adetsu. She is a postdoctoral researcher in Aarhus University and is representing here the project NbS for Drought. So please, Diana, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. Okay, so today I will briefly present or introduce the NbS for Drought project with the talking title of a wetland-centric perspective for drought mitigation and resilience in Europe. And the next slide, please. If you can click twice. Thank you. So we're increasing, to set a bit of a background or an introduction, we're increasingly experiencing more frequent droughts, intense ones, and over prolonged periods in Europe. For example, in the summer of 2022, where about half of Europe was in warming conditions. And most importantly, also, if we consider the recent past years where we've had about many record years actually in terms of our climate, this brings to bear that we can expect that in the future we would have even more of these extreme drought events in different parts of Europe. And if you can click again. So to counteract some of these negative climate change impacts like drought, wetlands have emerged amongst many nature-based solutions as having the potential to mitigate drought impacts. However, we still have some missing gaps in our understanding, especially regarding the quantitative evidence on which wetland types have the most potential, what are the costs associated in establishing them, the benefits that they potentially give, and how are they accepted. There are also concerns regarding their design, for example, and also where to implement them, as well as how best to integrate them for long-term resilience and how we can maintain them. In the next slide. So it's against this backdrop that the NbS for Drought project, which is an EU-funded initiative, kickstarted last year, and we're a consortium of 24 partners in 8 countries. Next slide. So within the project, the overall goal here is to enhance drought resilience across diverse European landscape, with a particular focus on demonstrating how we can design cost-effective wetland-based, nature-based solutions for drought mitigation. And the scientific approach that is underpinning the achieving of these objectives actually uses on the one hand, drawing insight from past projects and in establishing a baseline understanding, but also combining ecological restoration with co-creation or stakeholder engagement amongst other modeling frameworks, and also drawing insights or guidance from the global standard we've heard a lot about today for more credible and effective implementation of these solutions. And if you could click again. And one more time. Yes, thank you. So with that said, in the project, we have 7 showcases or demonstration sites that are situated across 5 bioclimatic zones in the EU. And here the idea is to test the feasibility of these different wetland types and see how best we can scale them in other environments also for drought mitigation, but also if there are additional co-benefits that we can get from these. So with that said, the sites that have been selected here span from very high intervention systems like constructed wetlands in in the urban areas, I beg your pardon, to more low intervention system like natural environment, like a bog, for example. And in the next few slides, I would like to highlight one of our key sites, which is the island of Samsø, located in Denmark. If you could go, yeah, thank you. So Samsø represents a very interesting setting for drought resilience monitoring. If we consider that this is indeed an island which is located in the Kattegat Sea, and here we have issues regarding limited freshwater reserves. And so this makes it a very important issue concerning water scarcity, and this is a growing concern actually. In addition to this, Samsø is also very famous for intense agricultural production. So to ensure their yields while limiting the stress that they put on groundwater resources, a farmer-led intervention actually resulted in the construction of several irrigation ponds. And so to the left of the image where you see here, you have all of these red dots represent irrigation ponds that have been constructed on the island. And if you go to the next slide. And we cannot overemphasize enough the role or the significance of early stakeholder engagement in the success of such intervention. And so involving right from the beginning of such a project or such intervention, farmers, local authorities, and other groups that have a stake in these solutions, this has proven not only to be vital in terms of, I beg your pardon, in building legitimacy and also allowing granting acceptance to such an initiative, but it also allows for long-term stewardship of solutions by farmers. On the other hand, also, it is proven continually to be very essential in aligning the goals of the overall broader project of NbS for drought with local priorities. And so what farmers are more interested in, and also drawing from their knowledge in identifying sites that are most relevant for some of the objectives that we are also interested in. And from such interventions, there are several benefits. The key one is in the title of the project's name, drought mitigation or risk alleviation. But there are also opportunities for monitoring other ecological questions, for example, the potential of these interventions for biodiversity support, for carbon, and so on. There is also a recent focus on how these ponds can be used to reduce off-field nitrogen losses, where farmers can pump drainage water to reuse or to use to supplement their irrigation demands. So in the context of the project, we are actually also focusing a lot on the pond design parameters and how we can help also to develop together with the farmers and local stakeholders ponds that are the most potential for supporting their needs, but also providing additional benefits. And if you can go to the next slide. So this is the final slide in summarizing that towards the overall pathway to the project's impact, NbS for drought takes into account a multi-actor approach in achieving its objective. So on the one arm, we're using an AI expert system to draw insights from the past to establish understanding of the problem. But also we are implementing a monitoring platform where we can collect evidence or generate new knowledge. And these we can put together and try to see how best they can be upscaled and also replicated in other relevant contexts for the topics that we have. And on the last slide. And this is the team, and I would like to say thank you to you for your audience.
Thanks a lot, Diana. That was very insightful. and I'm sure the audience got a lot of insights and expectations on kind of really seeing more about NbS for drought and such undertakes. So thank you very much. Now I will give, there is going to be a Q&A session after the panelists present. So this is why I'm going directly to Gregorio. Please, Gregorio, turn on your camera. Gregorio Sgrignà, he's a technologist at the National Research Council of Italy and works at the Research Institute on Terrestrial Ecosystem, and of course is a key member of the Italian Nature-Based Solutions Hub. So Gregorio, welcome. Thank you for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Natalia. Good morning, everybody. Yes, I work at the National Research Council, and we are coordinating the NbS Italy Hub. And I'm presenting you today the main activities and experience that we are having with this, the creation of this community, of this network in Italy, which was born in 2023. So next slide, please. And I'm showing you more or less the what we have been doing. I'm part of the coordination team together with the coordinator, which is Carlo Calfapietra, and we have a huge group from the CNR, plus the collaboration from university, the Tuscia University from Viterbo, and this is our logo. And next slide, please. What is the Italian NbS Hub? Of course, it's a community, it's a network, and we are among the national hubs that already Daniela showed before. So the national and regional hubs that were supported since the beginning by the project Net for Nature. And we are a network, a community which aims to connect practitioners, researchers, and public authorities which are working directly and actively on NbS. The main goal also is to connect the different actors from different sectors. And one of the challenging aim that we are facing is also to include the private sector. And we would like also to facilitate the knowledge exchange and support the implementation, of course, of NbS in Italy. And the hub also is contributing to the broader European NbS community by sharing experiences and fostering the collaboration. So we can be also the link between research institutes and local administrations to European projects. Next slide, please. So the Italian hub is a growing community, actually. Here I reported the three main events that we had in the last 3 years. So we had the first meeting that was the kickoff meeting in Rome in 2023, where we presented the hub, where we had the first 16 partners, the founder partners, which were 1/3 from local administration, so mostly municipalities. So we had around 5 cities, and the other ones were university and research, national research centers. And from that beginning, we had the first annual event in Palermo in 2024, where, as you can see also from the picture, we already grown up a lot in 1 year. And the second event was last year in Milan, where we had not only 2 days, but a whole week in July. And it was a really, really good experience also because for the first time also in Milan, we also brought the NbS school as part of the event. And then the upcoming event is the third one and is in Bari, in southern Italy, in Puglia region, and will be also the same week that we had last year, so the first week of July of 26. We have a lot of cities in this community. We have cities like Milan, Torino, Bologna, Palermo, Siena, just to make some examples. And we are growing, and we are trying to grow up also in center and southern Italy, which is still missing some partners in that side. Next slide, please. So the aim is to expand the NbS dialogue at national level, of course. So We would like to support practitioners and early stage career professional. And of course, the support is to the local administration, because sometimes in our experience, in our national experience, is that the concept of NbS and the attention NbS is mostly related to the research sector and to the universities and research centers. But we would like to bring it also in the municipalities and the local administrations. One of these, one of the activities that help on this direction is, of course, the initiative that we had in Milan last year, the NbS school. Here we have some example of this, of the moment that we had in Milan. And we are promoting also a new NbS school in Bari this July, the next July. And we also supported the standardization processes through the collaboration with the standard that was presented also by Daniela and the uni together with CNR, with the coordination from our institute, the Research Institute on Terrestrial Ecosystems. I would like to thank my colleague Francesca Bretzel, who coordinated from the Italian side the standardization process. And we are presenting it, as mentioned by Daniela, in the end of March, the 30th of March in Milan, with a live event where the uni, together with the participation of the city of Milan, we are presenting the new NbS standard. Next slide, please. Last one. This is just the lesson learned very quickly. We understood so far that communities matter, of course, so we have to connect the different actors, and it's very challenging also to bring as I mentioned before, the private sector, and it's a key step to grow up and to bring the NbS on the territory. The capacity building is essential, so we have to support the administrations and the regional level and municipality level, not only the larger cities like Milan and Torino that are part already of the hub, but we are trying to bring also through experiences like the NbS school, the concept and the advancing on the research at smaller levels. So I think that the NbS function, the NbS hub function at national level is to go in a capillary way on the national level. So also to smaller cities. And last but not least, of course, the topic of governance and financing are key challenges. And of course, also in the sustainability of our hub, which is sustained by a big research institute like is the CNR, and the financing also is a barrier for scaling up the NbS at national and European level, we think. So thanks everybody, and I'm available for questions.
Thanks a lot, Gregorio. This was very insightful, and I really like to see in practice how the governance of NbS unfolds at a country level. So thank you for this, and I am sure our audience has very interesting questions for you. So, but now to our next panelist before the Q&A, we have Silke Michelic. She's a senior scientist at the University of Natural Resources and Life Sciences in Vienna, and she's working at the Institute of Hydrobiology and Aquatic Ecosystem Management. Silke, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Natalia. Good afternoon to everybody. And I'm happy to represent the Danube case study in Austria, where river restoration efforts look back to more than 25 years. So next one, please. So when we talk about the Danube in Austria, I brought you a map to see the Danube in Austria from the border with Germany to the border of Slovakia. The big red dot here on the right-hand side is Vienna. And in scientific view, we always talk about the Danube west of Vienna and the Danube east of Vienna. Next click, please. So when we talk about the Danube west of Vienna, in general, the Danube in Austria is a heavily modified ecosystem. We have at the Danube west of Vienna 10 hydropower plants, with the last one in Vienna, the Freudenau hydropower plant. So, and only 2 free-flowing stretches remaining in Austria. So there is one with 35 kilometers in the Wachau, in the western part. And next click, please. There is another free-flowing stretch at the Danube east of Vienna. So next slide, please. When we look at the Danube east of Vienna, we have to explain that it's part of the Rhine-Danube transport corridor and a protected area. So it's a navigable river still, and it's also protected. It's the so-called Donauaue National Park, where the Natura 2000 Habitats Directive and the Natura 2000 Birds Directive apply. And in this area, river restoration is ongoing since the 1990s in an integrative approach, so to say. And what you can see here in this small circle, red circle, is one of our last implementation activities in the so-called Merlin project, about which I would like to talk in the next slides. Next slide, please. So how does river restoration look like? In this area, we talk about side channel reconnection. So as in the lower pictures on the left-hand side, you can see the income or the inlet of the Spittelauer arm, which was reconnected. The second slide at the lower part is the reconnected Jola arm. So all these side channels were reconnected to the mainstream, to the Danube mainstream, but we also talk about riverbank removement on the lower picture at the right-hand side, where riprap is going to be removed from the shoreline of the Danube to have these more natural shorelines again, to have this linkage between the main stem or the main river and the adjacent floodplains. So on the upper pictures, you can see activities ongoing in the Merlin project. It was also a removement of riverbank ripraps, historic ones and more recent ones, to have this natural shoreline again. And this was done in the Merlin project. So next slide, please. Yeah, the IUCN global standard was applied at the Danube east of Vienna. So how did we do it? So we worked with this IUCN self-assessment tool for nature-based solutions. We did a first round in autumn 2021, and the second round of this SAT, we called it, in autumn 2023. So you can see a small screenshot at the lower part. This is how the Excel file looks like. So just a small insight into this large Excel file. And we managed in the first round to do a baseline at the first round. So just to look at how well these indicators fit. And we included scientists and the practitioners, so representatives from Via Dona, who was the implementing partner, so who were really doing this measures or this implementing river restoration measures at the Danube east of Vienna. And why did we do it? Because we had a running project with implementation activities, this so-called Merlin project. Next slide, please. Just a short insight into this Merlin project. It is a Horizon 2020 project, ending with end of March now, after 4.5 years, with the title Mainstreaming Ecological Restoration of Freshwater Ecosystems in a Landscape Context, Innovation, Upscaling and Transformation. And what was so specific for this project, we had around 10 millions for case studies. So we had 18 case studies in this project where really restoration measures were done. We have these 3 clusters with peatlands and wetlands. We have a cluster with small streams and basins, and the large transboundary rivers where our case study, the Danube case study, belonged to. Next slide, please. Yeah, so how did our self-assessment tool look like after going through these 8 indicators, or these 8 criterions with the indicators? Our strongest criteria were biodiversity net gain and the adaptive management, so criterion 3 and criterion 7. You can see two different pictures here in this slide. The upper part is the presentation of the first round we have done before implementing anything at our smaller case study. And the second round was, the second picture at the lower part represents the results of the second round. So why is the biodiversity net gain so high ranked in our case? Due to monitoring and modeling in the whole part of the Eastern Danube. So there is subsequent modeling or monitoring of the measures taken in this area. We also have the technical expertise. So we at Donau as implementing partner has expertise going back 20 and more than 20 years. We have the funding. It's public funding through government, but also public funding through EU-funded projects, and also the existing supporting policy. For the adaptive management, it's especially the inclusion of different stakeholders, which also forms this integrative approach. That means we have representatives from science, we have experts from the implementing section, we have representatives from ministries included in the whole planning and implementation process. And there is a huge vision for this section east of Vienna, looking to 2030 and even beyond, where restoration, river restoration has been framed, so to say, and it is broken down to different smaller projects to meet this vision at the end. And we have this learning framework. That means we are doing our restoration works, we are assessing it and learning by doing. So next slide, please. Yeah, what are our key lessons learned and recommendations for anyone working with this self-assessment tool? It gives you really a better understanding of what you are doing. I've put here in this slide. So that means in our case, we have learned a lot about our case study east of Vienna, because you really have to dive deep into the self-assessment tool and question yourself what you are doing. And what we have learned, for example, is that we are quite a good role model for other large navigable rivers in what we are doing. But still, we had our troubles in working with this self-assessment tool. In the first round, we managed to do the baseline self-assessment tool, just putting these indicators, but there was still some lack of information. And in the second round, as you can see at the lower part here in this Excel sheet, there is also a question for means of verification, for example. You need to put on which publications are your decisions made, or in this self-assessment tool, or any data you can provide. Is it available for the public? Is it available in English or only in German language? So these are all additional information you have to put in to this Excel sheet. So what helps a lot is studying the guidelines, like this IUCN Global Standard for Nature-Based Solutions. It really helps you to understand this criteria, and you get examples, helpful examples in this guideline, and really familiarize with this self-assessment tool. You have to sit and read the questions and get familiarized to what you have to answer and how you answer it, and to put your indicators. And it's very important to get a very objective point of view. So you have to sit with heterogeneous group of people. So that means not only as a scientist sitting alone in your room, but include a lot of different stakeholders. So include scientists from with different expertise, include people from NGOs, working all on this case study to get a very objective and not subjective view on your case study. So that's it from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Silke. This was great and very insightful. I'm sure I'm reading all the questions in the Q&A and in the chat, and for sure you shared a lot of light into what it means to apply the standard and how it can be beneficial. So now I will invite our three panelists to open their cameras if possible. I would like to try, and because you have heard a lot from us, to invite the audience to for someone to raise their hand and ask a question to our great group of panelists. So I know it can be a bit scary. This is kind of what I'm doing for the last hour and a half, but if someone feels like talking, please share your questions with us. I'll try to check I'm checking the list of participants to see if someone is raising their hand. If not, in any case, we do have prepared questions for our panelists, but I just wanted to see. Okay, so for the moment, I think we have a bit of a timid audience, so I would like to go ahead and ask perhaps Gregorio, if you could just give us some reflections in terms of how you maintain this hub, the Italian hub, being active, and what has been a key to the success of the hub, because in Europe we all recognize the work that the Italian hub is doing as innovative, as that it creates a lot of awareness. So what would be the key points that you think are key for successful NbS hubs at the national level, and also just to share light with our audience that might be thinking as well to creating new hubs?
Thank you, Natalia. Well, I do not have a secret. I do not have a recipe to maintain the hub, but of course, something that was sustaining the hub since the beginning was first the network nature support and the CNR integration. So a huge institution who is coordinating and who is actually paying for all the administration side, which is very important. And we are a community which is working on it, and this was fundamental for the beginning. Then there is still an open discussion on how to maintain, how to sustain in a long-term perspective the hub, because this is something that everyone wants in the hub, in the group, and we are discussing and this is also why we are trying to bring the private sector inside, because we would like to give some kind of certification made by the hub. Maybe we can do at national level for private projects, or another option is the payment of fees of our national events. And this is something that is very viable. We were discussing it. So far, we didn't need it. And so also for Bari meeting, we are doing it for free, and everyone is participating for free. But maybe from the next year, we will need some payment of the members, and at least for the participation of the event, because as you know, the coordination and the organization is something that is very that needs a lot of efforts. Then the contribution also from another option is that we are a lot of members, and we are very big partners, so big research centers and universities. And another option is that the hub can be included in a huge European project, in Horizon project, and part of the fundings from the projects can be brought in the hub. So one of the partners can participate in the name of the hub, and then can finance the administration and the coordination of the hub. So we are discussing it. So not any unique answer, but we have many options, and we are discussing on it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Gregorio. I think I appreciate the honesty and also the practicality of your answer, because we all know we want to organize for NbS uptake, but this in practice entails time, resources, etc. So thank you for sharing with this community how you are approaching this undertaking. And then I will go to a question that we have in the chat for Silke. I'm going to read it. Thanks, Elana, for your question. So it reads like this: how did you manage time and the meetings needed to undertake the different self-assessment tool rounds? Did you break it into sections? Do you have a facilitator? How was this managed? they are interested to know more about the time investment that was needed as they are looking to take this, to apply the self-assessment tool in their work with partners in Scotland. The floor is yours, Silke, please.
Yes, okay, thank you for the question. In our case, I really have to be honest, we are lucky. We have an established stakeholder board at the Danube East of Vienna, where representatives from different NGOs, the ministry, and so on are included. And where regular meetings are held to discuss the restoration efforts they are doing at the Danube East of Vienna. But specifically for the self-assessment tool, we closely sat together with Viatona, the implementing partner, because they all know their stakeholders in detail. So it was not this time-consuming work for us, but I assume that's a lot of work if you have to include all these stakeholders from the very beginning on. This is what we've also done in this Merlin project when working with the different sectors, not specifically on the self-assessment tool, but also including all these different sectors. And this takes really a lot of time. But in our case, we were lucky and did not have that much time-consuming meetings or whatever it could be.
Thanks a lot, Silke, and hopefully you can keep in touch with Elana and share more
feel free.
Information. I think this is how we create community. And also, I mean, I was not part of this process. I just recently joined IUCN, but here at this point, I think it's very important to acknowledge that there was the process of the update of the standard. And then in this process, led also by the Commission of Ecosystem Management of IUCN, and then the idea was also to reflect on how to make the self-assessment tool more accessible, that takes less time, that is more to the point. So there was a lot of work of hundreds of experts behind the update of the standard, and I think it was moving towards as well, apart from recognizing safeguards and other important topics that were maybe in the first edition not that evidently there, to make these tools more adaptable to different contexts. So for sure, when you enter IUCN and see all the work that is behind this standard, it is very encouraging, right? So yeah, and then with this remark, I would like to pose a question to Diana before we close the session. And thank you, Diana, for showing this case study on drought. I mean, we all, I think, worldwide are really worrying about drought and the effects on nature and people. And then we wanted to ask you, I mean, in this case, farmer-led irrigation ponds seems to deliver both drought resilience and co-benefits. How do you balance these local bottom-up solutions with the need for scalability and integration with water management policies? So a bit how you upscale these solutions?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think it's a very complex situation because there are competing, of course, interests, competing needs in an island context as well. So I think the very nice thing, which is also something that I tried to show in the presentation, is this need for dialogue and continual dialogue to be able to get both farmers and other, in context of the project, also what we are interested in monitoring, how we are able to get these dialogues going and to be able to get each party's interest on board. In terms of scalability, so with the island of Samsu, for example, there are also ongoing, so there is a process in, for example, applying to get a permit to be able to construct these ponds. But that is also the relevance of the project, that based on what we are able to see, if we can transfer this knowledge to other contexts that are also within the Danish environment or also to other island environments, if we're able to transfer this knowledge to other such relevant contexts. So it is a part of the evidence that we hope that we can give out of these projects to the community and also to policy. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Diana. That was a great answer. And with this, and minding the time, I would really I would like to thank our panelists. This was very insightful. At least from my perspective, it really shows the power of collaboration from different approaches, from different perspectives, types of ecosystems, locations. So really thank you for your time of being here, and then for sharing your valuable knowledge. And yeah, so thanks so much. And now I would like to invite Daniela, my colleague Daniela from ICLEI, for us to close this event. Daniela, and the floor is yours.
Thanks, Nata, and thanks for all of you who brought these perspectives from the ground. It's always very, very important for us, to make these discussions really relate to the field work, really. Yeah, it has been a real pleasure. So we see that we brought, as Nata said, different perspective on high integrity of nature-based solutions. From the global standard and to practical tools. We talked about national hubs. We heard from concrete examples and experiences from implementation on the ground. And what really stands out for me today, Nat, in this discussion, is that NbS are not only about working with nature, but also working across sectors, across scales, and across communities. It has a big level of complexity, and I know that many people I saw in the chat, there's still a little bit of impatience there in terms of where is the definition, this is too broad, and people want to put it in a box and want to, cement something that is very clear and crystalline. And I just want to say, for me, that is very, very difficult to achieve, because we do have many different processes here that this umbrella term actually relates to. There is need for this shared language, but there's also the complexity of governance, of involving very, very different actors. We know that nature-based solutions cannot be delivered by one single actor. It is a multi-actor effort. So for these approaches to be really credible, effective, and truly transformative, we should also be careful not to oversimplify things. And I really want to say thank you to all the contributions. We tried to answer the questions as much as we could. Some of them I didn't answer because I didn't know who you were addressing. So in the questions. So yeah, but I really want to say thank you, and I think we have to keep up this conversation and continue to have these webinars and discussions. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Daniela. And just for me to end in this last minute, say thank you for your time. As I started saying, there are navigating interests and conflicts and problems in these times competing for our attention. So we really value that you are all here and still remain after 2 hours, no break, a long session, but we did our best to really bring the message of collaboration, of the importance of the community of practice, of show you a bit what we are doing from Europe, but also really, hopefully we can make more space happen to learn what other communities of practice around the world are doing. This is our effort to learn from each other and then really to unite in times of less resources and then perhaps less political stability towards the commitment to nature. But I would like to say, for me, it was really inspiring that despite of all these challenges, more than 200 people gathered today to chat and dialogue on this. And then, as Daniela said, we do our best with the chat. We really are going to keep these questions and get back to them with time. And yeah, but thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it. And then, wishing you all a great day, whatever time is, where time zone you are joining from. So, yeah, thank you.